We were considered freaks, of course. We didn't see ourselves as such. It was the rest of the universe that was crazy. Who would have thought that planets with liquid water could support life? Liquid water. You might as well swim in liquid nitrogen while you're at it. So there we were, silicon-based creatures in a carbon universe. The only reason anyone would talk to us was that we could manufacture their star drives at 1/10 of the cost. That was probably why they were even slightly civil, though you could tell they wanted us gone as fast as possible. So, we kept to ourselves as much as we could. We, like most sapients, are social creatures and would have enjoyed acquainting ourselves with these strange, cold people. But it seemed their hearts were as cold as their worlds. No sooner had we entered a system than we were told to leave, unless we had something to sell, because their habitats couldn't be adapted to our needs. Early on, we didn't mind. We told them we had our ways of compensating for the vast comfort zone gulf and asked for somewhere isolated to take care of the installation. Then came other excuses. Our generators were too high energy, and if one malfunctioned, it would be catastrophic. We ran simulations showing it wouldn't be any worse than one of theirs blowing up. Still, it was too risky, they said. We don't have anywhere for you. What about that desert over there? We don't have any isolated areas, and on and on. Pretty soon, we got the hint, gave up trying to make friends, and settled for making money. We were used to our galactic status as useful freaks by the time humanity entered the stage. They were not too different psychologically from other species, more rambunctious than most, but likely because they were still relatively new to the idea of a larger universe and had all the energetic curiosity of a child. We were sure they would calm down after a century or two once the amazement wore off. We didn't get much gossip, but it was evident that these humans were unusual. Instead of growing up and taking their place on the galactic stage, they continued to explore for exploration's sake and engage in activities considered hedonistic and wasteful by the galactic community. The humans responded to this attitude with what I understand to be a gesture of extreme insult, extending their middle fingers, and continued as they had before. Though having met a few, I personally think they took a certain malicious pleasure in spitting in the eye of authority. We got here by following our desire to explore and discover, they said, and now that we're here, you want us to turn around and adopt an attitude that would have kept us planet-bound until the sun blew up? No thanks, or something to that effect. It was inevitable we would run into each other, if only because their starship's engines needed replacing, and we had cornered that market long ago. In retrospect, we shouldn't have been quite so surprised that it went the way it did. They had heard of us and been warned away. But when you need an engine, you need an engine. So, I found myself in front of a video screen with a human. Like all carbon life, they looked bizarre, though at least they were vertically symmetrical. Apparently, my appearance was even stranger to the human than it was to me. It leapt out of its chair, cursing vehemently and invoking a deity. As per established protocol, both sides of the exchange were muted, and the translators were the only conduit for audio. But I didn't need a direct line to know the human was yelling at its fellows, though to what end, I could only guess as the only noun it used was untranslatable. In less than 10 minutes, nearly 20 humans gathered around the screen, all using the untranslatable word in reference to me. Understood. Would you like us to install it, or would you prefer to do it yourselves? The human's mouth twitched upwards on one side. You probably know more about what needs doing than we do. If you're willing to install it, that would be fantastic. The other humans started murmuring in excitement. I could only guess, but it seemed so about how amazing it was that an untranslatable would be working on the ship. I nearly broke protocol to ask for a definition of the word that they kept using, but at the last second, my brain caught up to my mouth and I finalized the schedule for the repair instead. The repair went reasonably well. Their alpha ring was indeed badly corroded and would have blown out after their next jump, so we replaced it and sent them on their way. I was rather puzzled by their attitude, but I put it out of my mind as an anomaly to look into later. It was only a year later that the next human ship pulled into our yard. I was on communications again and deeply torn between established protocol and my curiosity about what they saw when they looked at me. The burly human's eyes seemed to grow to twice their size as it looked at me. Well, damn. If Jose wasn't telling the truth, there's real untranslatables in the universe. Habit locked down hard, and I requested the purpose of their visit. It was a simple repair, so simple that I was fairly certain they had deliberately sought out our shipyard to verify whatever they had heard. Not long after that, we began to get human ships on a fairly regular basis. While we weren't very far off the popular route, stopping at one of our yards, unless absolutely necessary, was all but unheard of naturally. Some of us began getting suspicious that either humans were up to something or one of the other civilizations had put them up to something. What they were up to exactly depended on who was telling, but it was always a different agenda. For the most part, I ignored the half-schizophrenic ramblings of the rumor mill, preferring to research all I could about human culture and history, hoping to come across the word they kept using to describe us but had little luck. I became fluent in their lingua franca, though given the physiological differences of our mouths, pronouncing anything was next to impossible. It appeared those fleshy flaps in front of their teeth play a large role in all their languages. Lips, I believe, makes intelligent conversation more difficult than it's worth. I rather wish I had found the courage to ask for a definition sooner. It would have made what happened next far more understandable. When the human ambassador arrived, the yard erupted in panic. That a species had regular contact with us was unheard of already. That one would actually send someone to talk was treading the border between a fever dream and outright impossibility. By that time, I was the one with the most experience in dealing with them, so I was naturally chosen as the one to receive the ambassador. Gulp. I remember rather vividly that my biggest concern was that the pressure would bring my stutter out. I was fairly sure I would die of embarrassment if that happened. The human was clad in an environmental protection suit, naturally, and it was bulky enough that I couldn't be sure whether the ambassador was male or female. I hoped they wouldn't be insulted if I used the wrong pronoun. We had long ago scrapped the position of ambassador ourselves. No one was willing to get within miles of one of us, and their lack of cooperation meant that the most any other sapient saw of us was a video screen conference, and that itself was rare. Most preferred text-only communication, all the better to ignore our existence. So there I was, chosen representative of our race, or at least of our yard, which happened to be the largest of its kind. Thinking back, that's probably why the humans made contact there. They, like most peoples, put quite a lot of importance on a thing's size, assuming something large must be important because large things require more effort to maintain or something. We regard large things as a necessary pain in the rear, preferring to have several moderately sized things to a few large ones if all other things are equal. There's some saying in their lingua franca about eggs and baskets that as I stood before the human ambassador, nerves gnawing at me, I realized something profound. Despite our differences, despite the initial misunderstandings and awkwardness, here we were, face to face, ready to communicate. The ambassador extended a hand, a gesture of friendship in their culture. Tentatively, I reached out with one of my appendages, a mutual gesture of respect. In that moment, as our hands, or appendages, met, a bridge was forged between our two worlds. Over time, as communication flourished and understanding deepened, so did friendship. The humans, with their boundless curiosity and resilience, found in us a source of knowledge and innovation they hadn't encountered elsewhere. And we, in turn, discovered in them a warmth and openness that defied our previous perceptions. Through collaboration and mutual respect, we embarked on a journey of exploration and discovery unlike any before. Together, we pushed the boundaries of what was thought possible, exploring the far reaches of the cosmos and unraveling its mysteries. In the end, it wasn't our differences that defined us, but our willingness to embrace them and find common ground. And as we looked out into the vast expanse of space, we knew that our friendship was a beacon of hope, illuminating the darkness with the light of understanding and unity. And so, in this vast and wondrous universe, we found not only allies but kindred spirits, bound together by a shared journey towards the stars. As the final page of this chapter turned, it marked not just an end, but a new beginning. A beginning filled with promise, adventure, and the enduring bonds of friendship forged across the cosmos.